Earth, billions of years old, yet ever renewing, slowly, majestically revolving. Serenely it floats, suspended like a blue drop of water against the infinite black sea of space. On its life-sustaining surface, humans have lived hardly a wink of historic time, yet it is a history of consciousness evolving, a multitude of cultures and languages, of divine joy and human suffering, of raw power and tender concern, and of peace and war. Despite the wisdom of humanity's rare masters who lived and taught the oneness of the world and of the human species, wars have dominated human history. Through the corridors of time, warring leaders and their people march to battle under the banner of blind tribalism. Few leaders have overcome rampant nationalism in favor of a world of harmony. Instead, they have driven humanity towards aggression by exercising the will of the nation-state over the individual. Militarily, economically, environmentally. The result of these actions has been the division of our one world into a world fraught with division. For 2 weeks, in June 1992, the world witnessed an extraordinary event of historic dimensions, the Earth Summit. The United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, UNCED, convened in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to debate urgent matters of global development and the environment. Heads of state made up its official roster, whose main business was to sign national treaties dealing with such varied problems as biodiversity, radioactive waste, and global warming. But 40 miles away, a dazzling array of non-governmental groups, the Global Forum, gathered to propose solutions to environmental issues on a human and worldly level. What was the difference between the formal nation-state meeting, the UNCED, and the Global Forum? The first only dealt with relations between states, while the second tried to deal directly with the environment, the Earth itself, as members of a threatened humanity.
So finally we've come to that level in our history where we have to recognize our humanity. Why? Because humanity's in danger. You blow a hole in the ozone layer, or you pollute those oceans enough so that you can't get any oxygen out of it, or you kill those rainforests, and suddenly, we haven't got the species.
For 14 days at the Global Forum, day and night, Gary Davis spoke to thousands of people about world citizenship and its government.
So we're all linked up, whether we like it or not, no matter what we consider ourselves, we're all linked up with humanity. We're human beings first and foremost. And that has to be made legal. That has to be made legitimate. And that's what this government does. This is the only government which says this is the world government of world citizens. Why is it sovereign? Because we're sovereign, because you have the right of political choice.
Political choice, a precious, inalienable right. When confronted by the military demands of his nation, Gary Davis faced an historic political choice.
As a bomber pilot, I was told to go up and bomb towns, kill people, for which I got paid, for which I got medals. This is legitimate. The bombs that I dropped were legitimate bombs. They were legal bombs. I was killing people legally because war is legal, according to the nation state. I was still subject to a particular nation state, which had put me into the killer mode. And then my consciousness, I began to think about these things. What was my role in life? What was my role here in the nation state? How could I be a party to this? This was suicide, human suicide.
A group of students from the University of Minnesota traveled to European countries to study. While we were in Paris, we heard about this American who had declared himself to be a citizen of the world. This was 1948. He at that time had pitched a small tent on the front steps of the palais that had used to house the League of Nations. And so it was very dramatic. We could see this little tiny tent on the front of the Palais, and a single man there to demonstrate. He actually, at that time, my memory says, actually renounced his U.S. citizenship for citizenship of the world.
At that time, we were getting out of the war, and we saw a lot of diplomats not understanding what was happening because we wanted peace, you know. And we had the opportunity, we had the experience of the Traité de Versailles in France, you know, that brought the war. It was a peace treaty that brought the war. And we were rather anxious. So when I saw this gentleman camping like that among the diplomats, just aside of them, and distributing those cards, I said, he is right and they are wrong.
The UN rejects the Red Proposal in proceedings disturbed by an American, Gary Davis, who renounced his citizenship to become a citizen of the world.
You want humanity?
He wants to make a speech.
Speak to the people. Shall I speak? Will you let me? I pass the word to the people.
In 1948, Gary Davis interrupted the General Assembly of the United Nations to call for a world government, and it made world news. The response was overwhelming and enthusiastic.
A Paris political sensation takes the world spotlight again. He's Gary Davis, who renounced his American citizenship last May to become a self-styled citizen of the world. Addressing huge crowds in the French capital, the 26-year-old former U.S. wartime flyer called for support by all those interested in world government.
At that time, there was only one answer, which was very vague. It was an answer which Wendell Willkie pointed out, and Einstein. They talked about one world. Gandhi, these great moral leaders, talked about one world.
We feel that the International Registry for World Citizens can provide a means by which all of us can move together for world peace.
Okay, it's one world, but how do I relate to one world? And that got me thinking about my citizenship responsibilities. If I was a national citizen, then I wasn't relating to one world. I was cut off. The input on me might have been total, but the output was through my nation state. And I said, I don't want that. There's something wrong with that. I was a part of war. I was a part of war. I was up there in that B-17 dropping those bombs. So Gary Davis has to be a part of peace. It's got to be direct, just as war was direct. And that led me to thinking that, well, as long as I'm giving my exclusive loyalty to a particular nation, then that's a compromise. Then I did what the Founding Fathers did. I did what every leader of any, or beginner of any nation state does. I claimed my own political allegiance. And I wasn't alone. World citizenship was not it's not a monopoly. Anybody can claim it, and everybody should claim it. In fact, we're all world citizens of birth anyway.
In 1953, after registering more than 750,000 individuals as world citizens, he actually declared the world government of world citizens from the City Hall